Hello, my friends. I'm Kayla, and it's the month of love. So I wanted to read 5 brand new February released Romantasy books and talk you through all of them and my thoughts as I'm reading them. I'm at the end of the experience now, and let's just say one of them went really bad. A couple of them really surprised me. Even at the halfway point, I didn't know I would enjoy them as much as I did. And one of them I feel like isn't really romantasy by the end. But in this video, you're gonna see me read and review Throne of Nightmares, The Lies That Summon the Night, Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter, Books and Bewitchment, and an e-arc that I have of something coming out next week, Weavingshaw. So let's get right into it. Good morning. It's snowing. It hasn't snowed in 2 months.
It hasn't snowed this year yet, I feel like. If it did, it was overnight and it was gone by the time we woke up.
I feel bad for everyone who probably books like really fun family days outside because it's been so sunny for weeks. Us, we're going inside for bowling. I have started my first book, and I'll be honest with you, I'm already considering DNFing. I'm this far into it. I'm gonna give it not even another chapter, I'm gonna give it another interaction with the love interest to convince me if I wanna read it or if I don't. It's a really typical story where a woman is kind of lost in life, doesn't know what she's doing, and she gets this opportunity in this small town she's never been to before because her grandmother passed who she never knew, and she was told her entire life to never interact with her grandmother, never to go to this town, like it was bad news. And then once her grandmother dies, her mother's also dead, so she's like, there's no one really stopping me from going, getting my inheritance. She finds out what it is, and she discovers she has magic at the same time. An element that is not in the synopsis that I won't fully spoil, that I want to mention because it would have made me not pick up the book, is there is a talking animal element to this that is very much not my vibe. But there also is a kind of telepathy. Is that where you talk to someone?
Telepathic.
There's a telepathy angle in here, and I do like that. Hello, it's now midnight. I lost big time at bowling. Sometimes I think I'm super athletic and good at things, and then I'm sadly not. I did get a strike, I think, one time though, so.
Twice.
Twice? How many strikes did you get?
6.
Okay, as you'll see, even though I soft launched the idea of DNFing with you, so you would not be surprised when I DNF and not be disappointed, I still am somehow reading this book. I think the things that I have on my TBR for the week, there's some more intense romantasy and there's some softer ones, and I kind of wanted to even them out or go in like a certain rhythmic order. And I didn't want to give up on this one because it's the lightest. And it's like the least amount of world building because it's just existing in our world and there's a little bit of magic. And I didn't know if I could handle any more of an intense plot. So I've just been reading this on and off all day. And at this point, I'm past the halfway point. So I just feel like I might as well finish it. Like there's barely like 110 pages left. That would take me like an hour and a half, but I'm going to bed now. So there is a chance I wake up and want to give up on it, but there's a chance that I don't. I don't know what I'm doing. But this is Books and Bewitchment by Isla Jewell, who is Delilah S. Dawson. And I think a reason that I'm not wanting to give up on it is because I like the writing. I like her writing. And that's why I was down to pick this up. I've given her 3 stars and 4 stars. I like her novellas more than anything else. And I like that she's, you know, getting into a kind of genre that's really popular right now. Until I got to the halfway point, we hadn't even had that second interaction with that guy, Hunter. And I said I was going to continue with it until then. And I just feel like the first half was a lot of setup. Like she didn't even start thinking about anything to do with the business or start being interested in this guy until 180 pages had gone by. So it just feels like there's a lot that's about to happen in the second half. And I know this is a series, But at the beginning, it introduced her and her two sisters, and the fact that her two sisters are also single and don't really know what they're doing with their lives. I feel like that's introducing us to an entire series. It's going to be following a different sister in each one. And that means this entire romance is going to wrap up, is going to begin and come to a head in 100 pages. And she's going to start this entire business because her grandmother left behind this video store and she wants to turn it into a bookstore. But to do any of the renovations, she has to work with a contractor. Is that what he is? And that's what Hunter, of course, happens to be. So now we're going to get this close proximity situation.
Look, no one is more disappointed in me than me that I finished this book and I'm giving it 2 stars. I should have given up on it. I recognize it. I'm mad at myself, but I just had to see it through because I also wanted to tell you how much I don't like this, because I want to tell you how mediocre this is and how much I think this is probably a skip. Like, you should probably skip this one. This is a nothing book, like truly a nothing book. It is one of the most uninspired, not that I've read a lot of cozy romantasy, one of the most uninspired cozy romantasies that I think it's just so simplistic. And I will take some accountability because I picked this up thinking, okay, well, it's from an author that I know. Delilah S. Dawson has done things that I like. And so there's going to be some type of edge to this. There's going to be some type of intriguing element. It's not just going to be your simple small town romance. And I was wrong. And that's one of the reasons why authors write an pen name to begin with. So you're not comparing their other things with their current thing. But the fact that this was just so devoid of anything, like any plot, any characterization, any romantic, like nothing was in, like there was barely any magic. I actually can't believe it. I feel like when we talk about romantasy, I like to mention like the steam or the spice level, because I feel like that's something that a lot of people talk about. So it would be useful to know. So know that this has nothing. There is one, he goes down on her and then it's a fade to black. And then the next chapter starts with, I opened my eyes and had the best experience ever. And no man has ever made me end. I've never had an ending before. I've never ended with anyone. And I was like, what weird phrasing is that? I've never heard that before. Finished? Sure. Orgasmed. Like, is that a swear word now? Maybe not came, maybe don't want to use came, but ended? I've never heard that word used in that context before, and it sounded so weird when I read it. When calling books cozy, I think we need to differentiate between low stakes and cozy, because cozy implies warmth. It implies a welcoming environment. I expect descriptions of the townspeople, of, I don't know, the weather, the nature. I expect forging relationships with people, reconnecting with people, getting to know the community and like becoming a part of it, and like baked goods and like warmth, right? Cozy. This was surprisingly cold. It was disconnected. It was like checking off a list. The character has to go here. She has to have this conversation. She has to do this. It's low stakes fantasy because the magic barely exists. There's something called a knack, and the witches in the town have their own knacks. So it's like, for our main character, it's book related. So like she can just accomplish things a little bit easier. I don't want to explain it any more thoroughly or how everyone's knack kind of differs, because I guess that's one of the only interesting things to learn in here. But of course, the witches can't talk to each other ever about their witchy powers. That's like one of the rules for some reason. And so she never really gets to understand other people's magic. It's not this big magic system she ever really gets to connect with. There's something that her grandmother did regarding the magic or the town that she's trying to figure out, but she can never really get the answers because she's not supposed to talk about the magic. And so there's also a lot of miscommunication with that, because she assumes something and then doesn't find out for pages and pages if it's true, because the book just doesn't want us to know. Then once we get some answers about the magic, it's far too late for it to actually have any impact on the plot. And it doesn't matter. And everything works out in the end, even for people that, in my opinion, it shouldn't. I don't think there's any chemistry between these two people. Am I talking myself into a 1? I don't think I had a problem with the writing. And that's something that I can appreciate being from an author that I read from before, is like, I know it'll be readable, but it did take me 3 days to get through this. I just don't see the connection between these two people. Like, he didn't like her, and then suddenly he did. And okay, my love language is acts of service too, but him just building the bookshelves for you that you're paying him to build, like that's enough to get your panties wet? Okay. Because he does carpentry, there were wood puns. he was like, I'm pining for you. She was like, oh, for sure. My biggest issue with this book is the main character. Ray has no agency, yet the book starts off pretending that she does. And that's something that I hate the books do. When they introduce a character and then after we get an idea of who she is, she feels very responsible for her younger sisters. She's like running things with the family. She's the only responsible one. But even then, every choice that she makes, she doesn't really seem in charge and responsible and thoughtful. And I want one of two things from characters who are going into an environment like this, starting a business in a community they do not belong to. I want them to be really bullheaded and strong-willed, and then usually, and what makes sense is they come to understand the community that was there before and they need to integrate themselves better and not try to be in charge and not try to make all these decisions. So she's running this video store and she wants to turn it into a bookstore. And she has all of these plans and these ideas. And every time she comes up to a barrier where someone's like, oh, I don't want that. I still need to get my videos here. She's like, oh, okay, no problem. And then someone's like, oh, well, she used to sell this here and I wish you still had that. And she's like, yeah, okay. And that's just like in the middle of the things that make sense. Either she's really strong-willed and it takes people reminding her over and over again that she needs to be a part of the community and that she's not a know-it-all. Like she needs to be more humble and more thoughtful of the community she came into. Or she starts the entire book being community minded and she goes into this being like, I want to make this bookstore everything that everybody dreams it to be. I want to make it perfect for you. And she like brings the community together and she puts on little panels and she interviews people and she's like, what would everybody want? I want to be a part of the community. Like, I love it here. But she's not either of those two things. The book pretends that she's this, but then so easily folds, but not in a soft, comforting, warm way. And so she just ends up having no intriguing personality traits at all. She has opinions, but she's willing to go back on them right away. She has passions, but she doesn't really actually care about them that much. She just existed. Like whatever the book wanted to happen to her happened to her. And I'm going to leave it with that. 1.5 stars. I talked myself into lower. And that's not even all I have to talk about. I'm going to film a whole spoiler section for channel members because I've decided at the end of each quarter, I'm going to post like spoiler negative reviews for all the books that I hated in the quarter. So I've been filming clips every time I've hated a book and I need to talk more about this one. But in this moment, we're going to leave it there and I'm going to move on to my next book, which I've already started and I'm liking. I've now started The Lies That Summon the Night by Tessonja Odette. I have another book from this author on my TBR that people have told me that I will love, and I think I'll end up reading it this year, but I just love this cover. I thought the concept sounded interesting. I do like stories about sins and shadows, like just something sounded appealing to me in here. So I just got to chapter 8. The first 50 pages are done and there was a lot of world building and explaining about everything happening, but it had an equal amount of plot. So I think it was perfectly well balanced. I don't know if it's going to work for everyone. And we just had our first chapter from the love interest point of view. And I am gonna check out the audiobook knowing that it has dual narration. I think I might be into because the female narrator is one of my new favorites, Samantha Brentmore, who I listened to in Female Fantasy last year, and I wanna listen to more of her. So I'm gonna pick up the audiobook, try that out. But at this point, what we have learned is we have Inanna. There's a bunch of different classes of people. We live in a world where like there are sinless people and people who have sinned, and the sinless will feed on the people who have sinned. And like once their appetite is complete, like not individually as people, entities, but like once they as an entire group no longer feel the need to feast on the sinners, then like the people have atoned for their sins enough and like the world will like cancel all of that out. She's in her 20s and she has committed crimes and she is considered an outlaw. So there are also these groups of people. There's like the sinless lords, there's the sinners, the outlaws, but then there's another group of people called Shadowbanes, and they are rumored to be able to use these like shadows or shades as weapons. So like there's these creatures that stalk around, and there are these cities, these walled cities, where you can be protected from any of the evil creatures. And I guess it's just like the lights are on all the time, so they can't enter. But these shadow banes can wield the shades, and the shades are attracted to the sinners. So like nobody wants the shades to enter the cities because I guess the sinless want to feed on the sinners, so they don't want the shades to have the sinners. And then the sinners don't want the shades in because then they will be consumed by the shades. And they have a kind of relationship with the sin. I don't know, because they're also, the sinless are killing the sinners by consuming too much of their blood, I think. But I can't figure out if that's like a regular part. Maybe I missed it. But the shadow banes, there's only a certain amount of them, and they're obviously these like big, brooding, sexy men who can control the shades. And we have one who comes and they collect bounties for criminals. She's a criminal. This one comes to where she's working and recognizes her as an outlaw, and he decides to take her and use her because the shades are attracted to her. He can then use her as like bait to attract more shades, and then he has a whole collection of shades. So he kind of kidnaps her, but also makes a deal with her that she agrees to, that he is going to use her for 6 months and then grant her freedom. Because then I think at that point she can be relieved of her sins and just like live a normal life. And that's basically everything that the synopsis says, but in my own stupider words. So I'm just interested to see what happens from here. I think both of these characters are interesting. Their dynamic isn't necessarily super like sultry at this point, but I could see it easily going in that direction. And in the author's note, the content information, it says there's adult situations, including open door descriptive sex scenes featuring coarse language, shadow play, and blindfolding. Hell yeah. I'm nearing the end of my book. I have an hour left of the audiobook. I like the female narrator, like I told you. I don't really like the male narrator, but I also don't love like his perspective in general. Not that I'm disliking it. I feel like I'm gonna give this a 4, but I'm not like itching to get to his perspective. I feel like this is one of those romantasies that didn't need to be dual POV. Although when we're in his eyes, we do get different information, I guess, so it is valuable in that way. But the whole book is so info dumping anyway that it doesn't really matter who we're hearing it from. I like the fact that art is kind of demonized, not kind of, it is demonized. It is seen as a sin to participate in creating art or basically anything that brings people joy. And I love that because that just feels really representative of the society even in which we live. Not that you can be put to death if you create art, but how art is so highly criticized and it's hard to make a living that way, and people don't, I think, respect entertainment as much as other things. And we have characters who are starting to question like what has been told to them, and like, am I really wrong for creating art? Because she's a performer, she tells tales, she weaves webs. That's like part of like what this group does. It kind of feels like we have an almost circus group of people that we're following, not quite, but the way that they go around places and they're hired by somebody to put on these performances for the sinless lords, and then a couple of them get taken together by this other man, and he has plans for them, right? And so the second half of this especially was very action-packed. It was a lot of doing the bidding, and there was one really steamy scene a second ago that was great, like very little, zero cringe. And there's this fun element because there's something about Dominic's personality. He can summon the shadows, right? And so like there's something about the shadows kind of participating. And it almost feels like there are multiple people involved in that situation. I'm gonna wrap that up as I go book shopping, grocery shopping, and I have to stop at the library. I have 1 hour until I have to be back at home to do a live show with my channel members. And I have to pick up the book. I don't know if I'm gonna start this today, but I need to pick up the Agnes Aubert one. I tried to order it multiple times so I could just like quick pick it up. They could just bring it to my car, and it's just like not happening. So I'm gonna go in and grab it, which is okay because I have to do a little book return anyway. So I'm gonna finish the audiobook while I do my shopping, and then probably during my live show, I will let you know how I finished it out, my final rating, and what I've decided to read next. Quick little book haul before I
review the book I finished. I got my aardvark box, and in it we have my picks of the month. This is Adrift by Will Dean, a vacation-y thriller I'm excited to read that I didn't even know was coming out until I checked Aardvark at the beginning of the month. And then, of course, Burn Down Master's House, which just sounds really interesting, by Clay Kane. I'll probably read this one by the end of the month. And then this one I also put in a hold for the library, an audiobook from the library, and there's like a 12-week wait already. I like audiobooks for thrillers, so I'll probably wait on that one. And then I also got in the mail this. It's My Enneagram, a visual guide to find your personality type, stress less, and live your dreams by Abby Howe. Abby is an Enneagram, I mean, she does a lot of stuff, but to me, she's like an Enneagram Instagram influencer. Like, that's how I found her. She makes a lot of fun content. She posts YouTube videos just like talking about all the Enneagram types and making little skits. And she made this journal where it talks about the Enneagram, like you can take the Enneagram test in here, and then also it discusses the wings and explains the whole Enneagram. And we get like, you know, discussions of how each type handles different things. And there are so many moments of reflection where you can write down how you feel about stuff, and when you're at your best, and when you stress out, and action plans for success, like related to your own personality traits. So when she announced she was coming out with the book, I was like, I have to support her. I followed her for so long. She's one of the creators who inspired me to even make that Enneagram video that I did years ago. And it's still one of my favorite pieces of content. And now onto my final review for The Lies That Summon the Night. I'm really glad I ended up giving this a 4 because it has a cute cover and I want to put it on my bookshelves and I want to keep it forever. With that said, like most series, I'm not going to continue in the series. Like, the first book was enough for me. I enjoyed it, but the way that this ended was kind of crazy. Like, it's got some twists and turns that I don't think many people will see coming. And so I would recommend it for that. Though that means that the series is going to become even more action-packed and fantastical, which I think a lot of people look for in fantasy series, but I do not. I want them to be like the same vibe the entire time. And when we're so focused on a relationship, I want that fun to continue. That's why I'm excited to read Throne of Nightmares. Probably not next, because there was a lot of similar stuff regarding like the 7 deadly sins and like the dream stuff and the mind stuff and shadow things that I definitely need to read something in between. But something that it says in here is the romance between the main couple is not dark, but the fantasy world it takes place in is. The book features monsters, gore, and dark themes. Yeah, so there's darkness happening. There's a lot of corruption happening. There's plenty of like political stuff to maneuver around. And also, if you like vampire books, there's an element of this that I think will really work for you. But the relationship between them is pretty, it's soft. It's nice. It's a reprieve. It's not like insta-love, insta-lust, but there is instant intrigue. And I think she does do a good job of dragging it out and making us wait. The middle did feel a little bit dull to me, but I think that's just in comparison to the final quarter, which was really action-packed. Also, it had one of my favorite things in here, which was a dream sequence sex scene. There was also some like praise between them. So if you're into that, it's in here. And it also felt like the most appropriate in any fantasy or any romance that I've read for that to be a part of it, just based on what else was happening in the story. There's a lot of commentary you leave this book thinking that it's talking about, and I'm interested to hear from other people who continue in the series, like how those conversations continue and what actually happens with the world and the realizations about what they've been told and the way that they've all been living their lives. But I definitely don't care enough to continue on myself, but that's not a dig at the book, because there's not very many books that I do want to continue in a series, especially when it's still following the same people the entire time. I'm now onto Weavingshaw. This one comes out, I think, a couple days after this video goes live. I wanted to include it this month because I wanted to read all brand new, like February releases for this video. And this one comes out a little bit later than I would have liked in order to include it in the vlog. And so I requested the e-arc and I got it from NetGalley. So thank you so much to them, but I really hate reading on my phone. So I've been struggling to want to pick this up. Through the reading sprints I did, and I got to 20% of the way through. I think the concept of this is really interesting. It's a gothic fantasy. It's going to be a trilogy, so we'll see if I want to continue by the end. We're following Lena, and 3 years ago, she somehow got this power, and I think we'll learn more about it as the book goes on, that she can see the dead. She lives in this world where there's this sickness. I think of it kind of like chickenpox. Like once you get the chickenpox, you're kind of immune to the chickenpox. But I don't know if there's other sicknesses like that. This one is specifically a respiratory illness. It's called the something cough. And her brother is sick with it. And, you know, we're in a fantasy setting where there's people who are treated lesser and they have less, and you don't have access to the medications that you need to, not unlike reality for many people. And she, in order to get the medication and the money she needs to help her brother, since she has this ability, she knows that it can wield some type of power, some kind of trade, something. And so she goes and meets with this man, and she reveals her secret, and he agrees to help her brother. And the way that it's going to work is there's this dead person, this ghost, that the man now knows that he can communicate with, or he knows, like, maybe can learn something from. I don't fully understand the mystery, and I don't think we're supposed to, because she also isn't getting all the information. She's just tasked with finding this man. And he was one of the owners, one of the heirs or whatever of this academy called Weavingshaw. And he died, and now this man wants to contact his dead spirit, I guess. And so she's going to use her powers to do that for him, and he's going to give her stuff to save her brother. But there's an extra kind of element that raises the stakes a little bit more that isn't in the synopsis. So I will leave that out of it. But she has no choice but to complete this task. Even though she doesn't fully know what the task is, how he died, why it matters, how this man knows him. Like, she doesn't know anything. And she also doesn't really have control over this ability. Like, she doesn't really know anything about it. She doesn't know where it came from. So there's a lot of things that we and the characters are all in the dark about, and that feels appropriate for a gothic setting. It definitely feels very broody, and I don't feel the romance between these two. I didn't even know when I started it if the romance was specifically between these two characters or if we were going to meet someone else. He's called the Saint of Silence, I think. Yeah, I'm sure there's this big underbelly of things going on, and the person who currently owns it is not a part of the original lineage. Like, that entire bloodline has died off, and I'm sure there's like something to learn about that whole situation and where we're at now and who's in control. And I think Weavingshaw is going to be a dangerous place for her to be, but I don't know in what way. Intrigue is at an all-time high, so I'm gonna keep reading this and then I'll check in with you in a bit. It is a big Olympics hockey day, or was. It's over now. I have towels to fold, but I couldn't focus on that. We had Canada and US hockey today. Canada won, barely, at the last second. And then US kind of swept. So the Sunday game, the gold medal game, is between those two teams. And I, as a Canadian, would love to think we're going to take that. I don't know if we are. I don't have a lot of confidence in that, but we're all going to wake up so early. I think it's at 5 a.m. on Sunday. Then the boys are probably going to head up to the ski hill. And then Liam has hockey that day. He has his own stuff. We're in the playoffs right now. Liam's team's in the top 6, but they're like the bottom of the top 6. So I don't know how they are feeling going into these next couple weeks. I was trying to read a little bit of Weavingshaw while I was watching the games. I haven't got through a lot, but what I have gotten to was a little bit boring. Like, there's been a lot of, not a lot actually, no. It's just like the last thing that I read took me a while to read it, because there's a lot of backstory that is necessary, sure, but that I just wasn't very interested in, about like the history of Weavingshaw and the kind of entire area, the way that the ruling class is treating the working class and trying to hold on to their power and their class systems and how they treat immigrants. There was just some chapters that didn't intrigue me very much, but we obviously needed to understand everything. And now that group of people, just like the Saint of Silence needs Lena to do something, a lot of people need the Saint of Silence now too, because he is known for like being the master of secrets and trading in secrets. And the house itself is keeping something from the people who are now in power, because it has a duty, responsibility to like the legacy family. And so it's not giving up its own kind of power to them. And so now they want to use the Saint of Silence. And I'm thinking at this point, we're going to get a little bit more like kind of vulnerability or weakness from him, because at this point, he's very much the powerful force that is leading Lena around. And we need to see a little bit more of him being like nice. Not that he's not been nice, but just not scary, I guess. For us to get on board with a romance with these two people, because at this point, like, I don't see it, we definitely need to see him in a different light. And I feel like that's coming. I'm not even interested in like half of the plot in this book, but there's something about the way that they speak to each other. The tension is palpable, and I'm in a scene that I feel like is about to get real good. The tension this book is building is crazy. It's criminal, in fact. I'm so annoyed. I went to my local bookstore's website to see if this was in stock just because I had a feeling it was going to be in stock. And I was like, I need to go buy it because I just finished it and I'm giving it 4 stars. And it is in stock. And I didn't have to read on my phone for many hours. I could have just bought it and read it that way. But buying books early, even if they're put out before their publication date, you're not supposed to buy because it messes with the sales numbers. And now I can go purchase it. Though adult fantasy these days, it's like $42, I think, for this book. But I think I need it. I think I need it. I don't even love the cover. I saw another cover for it. I think it's in a different language. But this, I like it because we get to see the characters on the cover. And I think that the book gives the right vibes the way it looks because this is a gothic novel. Like, I really think you need to love a gothic novel and the slowness that just naturally comes along with that to love a gothic romantasy. Like, this is slow. It feels like 500 pages. I didn't realize while I was reading it was 500 pages. I was like, why will this book never end? It was so slow. But I got the slow burn because of it. I got the yearning. Oh my God, the yearning. Maybe there was only a couple scenes and the rest of it was plot and it was backstory and it was description. Like, this book was so atmospheric. 0, chili peppers on the spice scale. The most that happened is there was one scene where she was like standing in the ocean in a white nightgown and he was like, looking at her. That was as far as we got. Oh my God, it was so good. And just the atmosphere, like the descriptions of the seaside and the descriptions of the house. We don't even get to weavingshaw until 70% of the way, bless you, through the book. And there's a reason for it. And at that point, like, we just get explanations and reveals that maybe I should have seen coming, but I didn't, from like either side of what was happening. And I have to continue in the series. Like, I'm continuing in a series. And I think it's actually so great that I read it physically because then I'll pick up the audiobook because I love a Romantasy audiobook and it'll feel like a whole new experience to read when I reread it when the second book is about to come out. It's not even announced yet. Like, does that mean we're not going to get it next year? I don't know what I would do about that. I need you guys to pick this one up because it's so good. I never read arcs. Like, I literally never read books before they come out. Even if I get an arc, I'm probably reading it on its publication day anyway. So this is me doing the proper thing that NetGalley wants me to do and promoting the fuck out of this book because I thought it was so delicious and I want to have the second book, so please make sure I get the second book by buying this first book. And I feel like there are not very many authors of color represented in fantasy right now, like coming out in Romantasy this year compared to the last couple years. I don't know what is up with that. Let's champion this one, please. Can I tell you one probably really weird comp for this book that I feel in my heart, and that's Mara Dyer. Hear me out. The gothic vibes, the like dark, broody, I don't know, like institution, the not fully knowing your mind for portions of it, the brother angle, like being in danger a lot and having to help him. And then obviously like there's the romantic stuff. It's not like I didn't trust what the author was going to do with Saint Silas, but I just didn't know how we were going to get there and how we were going to get his backstory. And the vulnerability that I was thinking we needed is exactly what we got. It was perfectly delivered to us, like why he was such a tortured soul. And I really feel like it's barely guaranteed that they will end up together, but it also obviously feels so inevitable. That was very good. There was even some things introduced that reminded me a lot of The Lies That Summon the Night. So I guess it makes sense that they were both 4 stars, and I'm very happy with my day of reading. I also have already started and am quite a bit through Throne of Nightmares, but we'll do a title screen and then we'll talk about it. Hang out with me while I fold my laundry. We have Transported in Time. I'm currently physically reading the book I just told you about, but I'm also at the same time audibly reading Throne of Nightmares because I was doing a bunch of computer graphic stuff that didn't require my brain. And so I tuned my brain into the audiobook. The reason that I feel so invested into this series and like in my mind, I have to find a 5-star within it is because Throne of the Fallen awakened something for me 2 years ago. In the world of Romantasy, there's the lighter Romantasy, not even cozy, but like lighter, fine, we're specifically talking like explicitness, okay? There's the lighter stuff. I have found 5 stars in the lighter category where nothing is really happening between the couple. Like the romance is sweet. The plot is good, like adventure kind of romance that doesn't go very far with description. I found 5 stars in this arena. I have not found a 5-star slutty romantasy. I haven't found one and I need to find one and I want that for myself. And this is the closest that I've ever gotten. And this was a 4-star and I even reread it preparing for Throne of Secrets and it was still a 4-star. But there was so much to love about this for me that I was so sure that the next book in the series would be a huge win. And then it was only a 3. So I was like, ugh, should I stop with the series? No, this is bookish. Like the characters love, there's a sentient library in here. These characters, Sloth is our 7 deadly sin demon guy who we're following of all the demon princes that we get to follow in the series. And he gains his like strength and power from words, from learning, from knowledge. So I would just felt really confident this is going to be the win, but the last book wasn't. And here's what I was talking about earlier with books getting more fantastical as they go on. And that's a reason that I don't really continue in fantasy series when we're specifically following the same character the entire way through. Is usually one of those books, the first one ends with a character finding out they have like more magic than they ever thought. And so that is going to take the plot into a whole new direction. It gets so much more fantastical. Or they don't realize they had powers, they gain powers, they turn from whatever entity they were into a different entity. They're more powerful in the next book and more people want to take them down, and just more and more books get more and more fantastical and plot-based and political. While I like the plot, I want the same feelings that I have with the romance. And like that never continues with the series. It's following the same couple the entire time. These are still wet. And so I think what's a win for me conceptually is a series where we're following different characters in each book. Like that's why I know I need to continue in this series because this is a softer romantasy, but it is more explicit than the other ones. This wasn't a 5, but I think I could find a 5-star in this series if I continued because we are following different couples. So I think the tone will remain the same. So that's why I think companion books are for me, because we still have to meet the couple and they still have to begin their journey. And that's what I love the most. But somehow each book in this series has become more fantastical than the last. So for the first, I'm gonna say quarter of this, I'm now almost halfway through. The first quarter of this, I was like, oh my God, like how is so much happening? Like I just opened the book, let's relax. It opened with literally so much action. Prince of Sloth was in this extreme situation. He is trying to get this magical book not even just in his own hands, but out of the hands of the Queen of Nightmares. Because if she has all the power, she's going to do bad things with it. And she's going to take down not just Prince Sloth, but all of his brothers and all of their houses and realms and whatever. And he got betrayed. Like we met, I don't even know if this guy was in the other books. I don't remember book to book who the side characters are. But we met Prince Sloth and Xavier, and we saw the betrayal happen, and we got all of the info dump about the Queen of Nightmares. And what did I call her? Anyway, I think she's called the Goddess of Night. And then moved over to our main character, Lore's world. And Lore, her name is Lore, her brother's name is Fable. She works in a library. She's just in the real world, doesn't know magic exists. And she gets introduced to this portal stone. This like random woman gives her this portal stone, and now she's transported into this other world. And then the two characters meet, and there's all these battles, and there's all this extreme stuff happening, like right off the bat, like they don't even know each other, and they have to survive, and they have to decide if they want to help each other, and like neither of them know who each other are. Now let me figure out if what I want to tell you is in here. Okay, what it does say is Lore and Sloth soon discover they're living out Lore's favorite novels and must face off against an increasingly dark magic. So after that first quarter, and it was so much, the second almost quarter that I read, I'm so hooked. Like I love that they haven't really gotten involved yet. We are getting a slow burn, which is what I remember happening with this one. Like there's little moments where they seem attracted to each other, or they have to pretend to be together. Some like various things happen, but nothing's actually happening between them. Like they haven't confessed they find each other attractive or anything. But Lore is very much a kind of boring girl, but in her mind, she wants to be the main character. She wants to experience all these fantasy worlds. She doesn't have a lot of like fun things that she's gone through. And so when she gets transported into this other situation with this like big brooding man, it's almost like she doesn't take it seriously, and she's kind of just going along with it. And I just found that really fun. There was one point where they were in this battle and she jumps on his back and goes, "Charge!" Which was so dorky and stupid. And I kind of like that for her. And I wasn't really into this plot from the beginning, because the thing that Carrie Maniscalco gave me is characters who have an equal amount of like, not quite power, but it feels like power. They're both in charge, they're both strong-willed, and they have a good battling of the minds, which, as we've established, is something that I am looking for in all of my favorite romantasy. And so when this one kicked off, I was like, oh, no, it's just that typical story of that naive girl from reality who's being introduced by magic from this magical guy, and like it's just such a standard story, and I wasn't really into it. But at this point, they're thinking that Lore has more abilities or powers or backstory that we don't fully understand, or she doesn't even fully understand. They're trying to find this magical book, and I guess the magical book could be anywhere. There are these trials happening. The Goddess of Night wants to use Lore as her champion in these trials, but I don't think we're in the trials yet. I think she's testing her to be in these trials, so she's putting her in these like crazy situations to see if she can do anything. But then being transported into these books is so fun because the two characters aren't even involved yet. Therefore, Lore still gets to lust over the men from her favorite fiction book. So they're at this pub and she recognizes it from the book. And she's like, oh my God, we have to order a beer because I know that they talk about this ale in my favorite book and we have to try it. And she's like, wait a minute, if this is all happening, that means the love interest must be here somewhere. So she's like hunting around for this guy she's always been obsessed with in her favorite books, and she just gets to live out kind of her fantasy. Meanwhile, Sloth is obviously taking things very seriously because his entire demon house is at risk. That's where we're at. I'm just gonna keep listening to the audiobooks. It's interesting that it's the same two narrators for every single book in the series, even though they're very different characters, but I like their narration, so I'll check in with you later on. Throne of Nightmares is my favorite cover. It is my favorite cover in the series. I want to put it on my bookshelves. I think it's pretty. Does it get that coveted spot? Only 4 and 5 stars do. No, it's not. Unfortunately. This is a 3 point, I think I gave the last book a 3.5. No, I think I gave it a 3. So this feels good at a 3.5. Throne of the Fallen, a 4. Ultimately, it was just a little too cringy for me. That type of character that feels like the book was written for the self-insert romantasy girlies specifically, who want to read books where there's like a book-like character who falls in love with the main character. She's a librarian. He appreciates books, like how swoon-worthy. He's a gentleman, which means there's a lot less steam in this. Of the 3 books, this has the least. It ended with a sex scene at the very end, which I think like some people will like because it's the very long build and then it ends pretty much with that. And it's lengthy enough. It's explicit and it was well written. I think it was a little too cringy with all of the references to main character energy. Like it was constant. It was in every single chapter. She was like, I'm really trying to tap into my main character energy. And she even says that to him. She's like, you really have some main character energy. Like you're giving side character energy. And he's like, actually, I'm the brooding love interest. Don't you know that? Like I said, he's more of a gentleman than the other books. He is more bookish. He is more wanting emotional connection. So he's not just sleeping with everybody, which is what I really liked about Throne of the Fallen. I think there was even a line in here where she said something like, oh, I read so many slutty fae lords that they all start to run together in my mind. I'm still new enough to Romantasy that I like that character. I think it's fun. I think a lot of people who have liked the series will find this one to be a little bit too slow. We'll find that the main character has way too much inner dialogue, inner monologue. We're just in her head more than we are bantering with him. And even then, like, they're some of the only characters in the book. Like, there's not as many side characters as you would expect. Even when all the brothers get together, it's like for one scene for 2 pages. And I feel like why, if we have them all and we're establishing that they all are like in contact with each other, why not have multiple scenes with when they all get together throughout the series? I think some readers will find her a little bit insufferable being in her head and the way that she's talking all the time. I was having fun with it. Like I was trying to love her. I liked her enough. I think some people will hate her and I don't like her for him. I just don't see why he would really be that attracted to her enough to be like, I'm gonna take anything down for you. Like, I'll do anything for you. Like, we need to bond. We need to mate right in this moment. Like, you are my soulmate. Let's be together forever. Even though they go through trials together and they get through things and he sees her strength and we have certain revelations that, again, I don't read enough Romantasy that I could have seen that coming. Like, I was kind of shocked by a reveal that happened in here. It was good enough. I really did like the idea of her going into books. I thought that was really fun. I think the trials could have been more specifically gamified, and that could have been certain like plot beats that we hit where she had to complete this and then complete this and not really just be confused if she was in a trial or not. And oh my God, I listened to this fully on audio and I used my last Libro FM credit, which may not sound like a big deal to you because I get monthly credits, you probably get monthly credits, but I also had a stockpile. Like I read 25 books a month. I'm probably grabbing like 10 of those on audio, either listening to a little bit like from my library or from Libro FM. And when you guys sign up, I get these extra credits along with my monthly subscription. And I finally ran out after all these years. And I think the timing works out because Libro FM just introduced an annual plan, which is just when you pay upfront for it. So like you get all 12 credits at the same time, so you don't have to wait monthly. And I think, don't quote me, I am an affiliate with them, so I'll put my link down below if you want to sign up and give me more credits. So I should know, but I don't fully know how much you're saving. I think because like when I look at it, it's Canada, and I know a lot of you aren't in Canada, so the numbers don't convert. But I'm pretty sure when you sign up for 12 months, you're actually only paying for more like 10, like the amount that 10 would normally be. I feel like you get 2 free credits essentially, definitely at least 1 free credit by doing the annual plan. So if you do have the money to sign up upfront like that and pay for the whole year, you might as well, if you're already like paying monthly, you know. I think for me, it's going to be like $200, but I'm going to do it because I don't want to have to wait for the monthly credit because there's some months where I want 3 audiobooks and there's some months where I want none. And if you're an influencer, see if you can get into the influencer program because there are some free audiobooks that you can get early. Like I just got The Sun and the Star Maker, which is a YA romantasy. I didn't want to include it in this video because it's specifically about adult ones, but I'm so excited to try this one out and it's one of the ALCs of the month. Anyway, that's that on that, and I'll talk to you next when I'm reading my next book. Oh hey, I'm reading my next book. This is Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. So I love Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. It's a 3-book series. So when this got announced, I was so excited about it. And it's already reading so differently than Emily Wilde. Like it does not sound like Emily Wilde is narrating this book at all, which is, I think, impressive when you've established such a character voice that could be an authorial voice. Very impressed. So we have Agnes, and she manages a cat rescue charity. She has this building that she's always rented out. And there was just recently this magical destructive event, and she has to take the cats and move them somewhere else. But like, who in her town, she lives in Montreal, wants to, you know, rent out their space to somebody who's going to house 50 cats. So I just read where she was going to go interview for a place, and she was going to lie to them and say that she had a different kind of business. And then like by the time they found out, at least she had a place for her cats to be safe. And then, you know, it would take like 6 months for them to kick her out of that place legally, and then she could find another one. But she just couldn't go through with it, lying to this person about the space. So she's going to end up going somewhere I think she can't afford, and therefore she's going to need to start marketing herself and really learning how to raise money more to be able to afford the place that these cats deserve. She like takes them off the street, she rehabilitates them, and then finds them homes. I'm most curious at this point how the magic is going to be integrated, because this could so easily just be a cozy book without any magic. So how's the magic going to come into it? Like, who is she going to meet that has magic, or does she have magic? I don't want to read too far into the synopsis. I really enjoyed those first 2 chapters, and I'm going to continue with this. I'm filming a thorough review of this for my channel members. They voted on which of these books in this video they wanted a full spoiler video for. I don't know how many spoilers there are going to be, like, that I'm not going to want to talk about with you, but I'm just going to film like every single chapter and what's happening in the book and what I'm feeling about it for them. And it makes sense that they voted for this because we read Emily Wilde together as our book club. If you aren't a channel member and you join now, you can always go back and watch our live shows where we discuss all 3 of those books. And then you can see my expanded upon thoughts on every single scene of this book. I woke up bright and early to watch Canada lose, so that was a pretty terrible way to start the day. But here's the thing. Having the US and Canada as the final 2 teams, like, at least the people who won, I know who they are. Like, I watched them play hockey, so I'm happy for a lot of them. Another good thing about the day, Liam is the Booster Juice name of the day. So he's off to the ski hill right now, and he's gonna get a free smoothie on the way. How exciting for him. I needed to find a cat related coloring page to work on to fit for the book, because it's something that I love doing while I'm reading. And not only did I find a cat related one, I found a whole bunch of cats, and there's even like a box that they're in that says adopt me. So this is His Majesty. He's a black cat with a white boot. There's Banshee, who is a tabby cat who doesn't have a voice. And then there's this like dark gray one, I think named Thoreau. Then we had ginger cats and white cats. And this is Agnes. It said she was wearing a periwinkle coat, so I put her in a periwinkle coat. And I wish I could say that I'm loving this book. I just think it's okay. And I've seen so many people compare it to Howl's Moving Castle, so if that's something you love, I guess the dynamic is similar in here. I don't care about the love interest. And at this point in the book, we've barely even had any interest between the two. So I don't, like, yeah, it's a fantasy romance, but it doesn't really feel like that. But maybe that's about to just explode off the page. There is an equal balance in here of her running the shelter and helping the cats and her day-to-day processes. She's very type A, very organized, and gets frustrated by the fact that the man who's like living in the basement of her new residence, her new building, her new business, is this supposed magical bad guy. Like, he has a bad reputation as a magician, and she goes into his shop eventually one time because she's looking for something, and it's very disorganized and it's very chaotic, and she's like, I'm gonna help organize this place. So it's got cathartic vibes in that way. So a lot of her running the business, and then the other half is her trying to find this magical artifact. So there are magicians who can wield the magic, but it's more that the magic is tied to specific items, and anyone can technically use the magic attached to an item, but it's very dangerous, so people don't really do it. Pretty much everyone in the book is looking for this one specific artifact, and there is this villainous character that Havelock or Locke, our maybe evil magician, is contending with. So everyone's trying to track down this thing, and I think the cats are going to solve it. I think we need to have more of the cats doing stuff, and I think that's what the book's going to do. Like, remember when I was reading the Dale Meyer series, and I was like, you have a talking bird, the birds have to solve a mystery, and they like never did. Not that the cats are necessarily magical, though Mystical Cat Shelter is making more sense as a title as the book goes on, and the way that Agnes is trying to get people to adopt these cats. She'll do anything because she's so passionate about them finding homes. Oh, they're just getting their silver medals. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up, film a couple more clips for the spoiler vlog, and then my final thoughts. It's gonna be a 3.
You know what's so funny is I'm giving this a 4. And this is exactly what happened to me with Emily Wilde, is the entire book, I was like, this is a 4, this is a 4, this is a solid book. And then as I was reflecting on it, especially the final couple pages, I was like, wait a minute, this is a 5. Like, what are you talking about? This is a 5. This I thought was a 3. The second half really sold me, and this was such a satisfying read. I don't really think it should be sold as a cozy romance fantasy, because I just think the romance should be like 5 genres later in the like tagging of this book, so people don't go into it thinking it's going to be romance forward, because it's not. And it definitely didn't sell me in that second half because like, oh, it got more romantic or it sold us more on the love interest. I don't really care that much about that. I just think the plot and the focus and really just the satisfaction of all these pieces coming together, things that I predicted were happening, like theories I made up in my head that turned out to be true, was fun. And then we got a grief angle in here and something to do with that because she has lost her husband, that I thought was really thoughtful. And then we got more of the cats, and there were some soft moments with different characters who you don't know are gonna have different moments with the cats that I just thought was really great. I think if you like Emily Wilde, you could like this, but I think especially if you didn't like Emily Wilde, but there was something that worked for you in the book, obviously, but if you thought it was too long or too much of Emily, you didn't love Emily, I think you could still really like this character in this book. I'm so surprised that I ended up quite liking this by the end, and I could see myself rereading it. It was warm and cozier than the last warm and cozy supposed cozy romance fantasy that I read. The only qualm I have, I guess, maybe there's a few. I wish I felt more towards the love interest for sure. I kind of feel like he wasn't even intended to be the love interest, but then somebody told Heather Fawcett she had to add romance into the book. So I just think it could have been done a little bit differently at a different kind of pace or with different kind of dynamics. And then also the setting, I think very often it's easy to forget that we're in 1920s. Not that there's any mistakes. I just don't know that this book like exuded the time period as much as it could have. And you know what? It's more readers who talk about the romance than the marketing, because here it just says cozy fantasy. And in here it does talk about the man, but it's not necessarily like indicating that this is some epic romance. So I just think the way that I see people talking about it made me think it would be a certain thing, and the tags on Goodreads especially. So perhaps it wasn't the perfect inclusion for a Romantasy video, but it's a new release. I'm glad I ended up reading it. I'm glad I ended up liking it. And I feel very satisfied by that and everything that I read for this video, how most of the things went. I had a really good time, and I hope you came away with some type of recommendation. If you want to recommend anything to me, I'm always open to that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!